Now, let's crochet the arms and feet. We'll start with the arms. We'll make a magic ring to start. Then crochet in rounds counterclockwise. After that, stuff the arms and sew them onto the main piece. The new stitch technique here is A for SC2 tog. I'll show you in detail. Mr. in the chart. Mr. in the chart indicates we'll make a magic ring to begin. Let's make an adjustable magic ring. Hold the loop to keep its size. This completes the adjustable magic ring. Move on to round 1. Work 6 single crochets into the magic ring. Don't forget the beginning chain. After that, close the ring. Pull to close the center of the piece. Try to tighten it as much as possible. Then finish with a slip stitch in the first single crochet. If you can't tell the first stitch, count backwards to find it. This completes round 1. Continue with round 2. Follow the chart for corresponding stitch techniques. Note that there's no need to turn the piece. Crochet in rounds counterclockwise. When crocheting, weave in the tail. Finish with a slip stitch. This completes round 2. Trim the excess starting tail. For round 3 to 5, crochet evenly. Turn the right side with clearer texture outward. When counting rounds, count the rounded raised texture like this. It won't be difficult for you. Stuff the arm after round 5. Fluff up the filling cottons before you do. Just a small amount will do. For the final round, we'll do SC2 tog. Here we'll do the decrease in an invisible way. There's a video about it. For invisible SC2 tog, insert the front loop of next stitch. And the front loop of the stitch after next. There are 3 loops on the hook now. Yarn over. Draw through the first 2 loops. 2 loops remain. Yarn over again. Draw through the remaining 2 loops. A invisible SC2 tog is done. Decrease like this. The gaps between stitches are smaller. The fabric is more delicate overall. This is how we do an invisible SC2 tog. After last round, close the round. Enlarge the loop. Leave a 30 cm tail and cut the yarn. Thread the needle. Then pass through the front loops of all the stitches from this round. That's the strand close to you on the stitch. Tighten up. Press flat. The closing is now done. Leave the tail for now. The crocheting of the arms is done. Next, sew the arms on. Let's take a look at the finished project. Consider the side without trace of slip stitch as the front side of the main piece. The arms are sewn onto the front side, on flanks of row 1 from section 3. Close to the border of the edging. With the starting rings of arms facing upwards, you may rearrange the arms if you want. Now, let's sew them on. Here, I'll be working on this sample. Position the arm correctly. Put the trace of slip stitch close to the main piece. Sew the closing first. Then sew a few stitches at where the arm meets the main piece. Leave the top unsewn. Tie and weave in the ends. Sew on the other arm symmetrically. It won't be difficult for you. That concludes the arms. Next, let's work on the feet. There are 2 in total. Both are started by a foundation chain. And crochet the bases in rounds counterclockwise. After that, put on the pads. Stuff and sew them onto the corresponding position. The new stitch technique here is T for half double crochet. I'll show you in detail. Now, crochet the bases first. Chain to start according to the chart. Then work 1 SC2 in 1 in the second chain from the hook. Continue crocheting evenly with 1 single crochet and 2 half double crochets. Work 5 half double crochets in the last stitch. Continue crocheting the corresponding stitches on the other side. Finish with a slip stitch. Round 1 is completed. Consider the side with clearer texture as the right side. Trim the remaining tail. For the next 2 rounds, crochet in rounds following the chart. Leave a 40 cm tail and fasten off. Here is what a foot looks like after finished. We'll make the pads, which includes a large one and 4 small ones. The large one is started with the foundation chain. Then crocheted in rounds counterclockwise. Follow the chart to complete it. And bind off at the end. I'll show you on this small sample. After the last single crochet, enlarge the loop. Enlarge the loop. Thread the needle. Go through the starting stitch. And back to the braid where the tail is. Adjust it. That makes the edge neater. For the following binding off, use this method. Then place the large pad with the right side facing up. Sew it onto round 1 of the base. Near the end with the tail. Leave a small space below round 1. Then sew to the base through the stitches. Make the sewing stitches as invisible as you can. After that, at this end of round 1 of the base, round these half double crochets in the same spot. Embroider 4 small pads. Arrange them evenly at the position you like. Go through the fabric. Wrap the yarn around the needle 2 to 3 times. Do not make it too tightly. Then go to the back. Slightly tighten. 1 French knot is completed, forming a small pad there. Continue with the other small pads. After that, tie off and weave in the ends on the back. That completes the pads. Next, sew the feet onto the front sides of the main piece. Above round 8 of section 1. The wider end should be pointed to the flanks. Leave about 7.5 centimeters apart in between. Let's do this together. Thread the needle. Position them correctly. I'll sew this one on. Sew it onto the main piece through the stitches. Mind to make the fabric more stereoscopic. Place the narrower end at the bottom and wider end at the top. The entire foot takes up about 8 rows. Stuff it with a little filling. But not too much. Pull tight to keep the fabric standing upright. The sewing gaps are large here on the sample. In practice, you can sew closer. Once done, tie off and weave in the ends. Sew on the other foot symmetrically. It won't be difficult for you. That concludes the limbs. Next, we'll work on the facial features, including the eyes, the nose, blushes, and the ears. There are 2 eyes. We will start them with the foundation chain and crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Leave a 30 centimeters tail and fasten off. Sew it onto the front of main piece with its wrong side up. Round the seam of section 1 and 3. Right along this line. And make them centered. Leave about 2.5 centimeters apart in between. Place them vertically. The sewing method is identical to that of the large pad, but with the wrong side up. It won't be difficult for you. That concludes the eyes. Next, let's work on the nose. We'll start with the magic ring. and crochet counterclockwise. Then sew it on when done, and embroider a vertical line here. I'll show you in detail. Start with an adjustable magic ring. Chain 1 as your beginning chain. 3 single crochet. Close the ring. The nose is now crocheted. Leave a 30 cm tail and fasten off. Consider the side with braid-like texture as the right side. Here, I'll sew the nose on for this sample. Place it with the tail pointing down, between the eyes and centered. Align both ends with the dent here. Sew it in place with its ending tail. After securing both ends, divide the tail below into 2 strands. Draw one of them to the wrong side, through the stitch right next to the nose. And the other one through the dent below the nose. Tie a knot and hide the tails on the wrong side. The nose is now completed. Next, let's work on the blushes. We start with a magic ring, and crochet in rounds counterclockwise. The technique is similar to the arms. After completing, leave a 40 cm tail and fasten off. With the wrong sides up, place them 0.5 cm away from the eyes. Align the top of them with the top of the eyes. And sew them onto the main piece, through stitches from the last round. The method is the same as the eyes. It won't be difficult for you. That concludes the blushes. Finally, let's work on the ears. We have outer and the inner layers. Both are started with a foundation chain, and worked back and forth. Row 1 is similar to the nose. After that, just crochet back and forth according to the chart. Leave a tail at the end for sewing. Follow the chart and complete them. Sew the layers on before we sew the ears to the main piece. I'll show you in detail. Here I'll be working on this sample. Make the last row with the visible braid texture, the right side. After crocheting, place the inner layer with the wrong side up. Tuck the beginning tail following the texture. Place it on the right side of the outer layer, while the starting points matching up. With the tail from the inner layer, sew along the stitches of row 3 from outer layer. if you want no sewing traces on the wrong side. You can sew through the strands on the surface of the outer layer. Sew the sides together as well. Weave in the ends. Now the layers are sewn on. Now, with the tail from outer layer, sew the ear sides to the main piece. Through the front edge section 3. Leave 4 centimeters between the ears. And 8 rows away from the opening on flanks. With the inner layers facing forward. Tighten while sewing. To keep the ear standing upright. Just sew on the outer layer. Finally, tie a knot and weave in the ends. Sew the other one symmetrically. It won't be difficult for you. That concludes the ears. The facial features are also done. Next, let's work on decorations. Take a look at the finished project. For decorations, we have flower stems, leaves, sunflowers, daisy flowers, and assembly. First, let's work on the stems. There are 3 in total. One is around 2 centimeters long, and 2 are around 7 centimeters long. The pom-poms for the shorter and longer stems are in different sizes. I'll show you in detail. Start the stem by leaving a 20 centimeters tail. Then work chains. Until you have the desired length. Leave a tail of about 40 centimeters and cut the yarn. Then, thread the short tail onto a thin needle. The needle should be thin enough to pass through the purl. First, through the purl. Then the small bead. The colors of the small beads for the sample are random. Check the actual project for actual colors. Then take out the pom-pom. Pair the shorter stem with the larger pom-pom. And the longer stem with the smaller pom-pom. When going through the pom-pom, try go through the tight center area. This prevents the pom-pom from falling off. Then back through the previous beads. Adjust so that the stem sits snugly against the beads. But leave a little gap, so the beads hang naturally. Make a knot with the tail at the strand on the wrong side. Then weave the tail in the back loops. That completes one stem. Make the rest in the same way. It won't be difficult for you. Set them aside for now. Next, let's work on the leaves. We will start from foundation chain, then crochet in rounds counterclockwise. Let's do this together. Start with a foundation chain. Then pick up the chains and crochet the corresponding stitches. In the last chain, work 2 single crochets. And 1 ch1 picket. First, chain 1. Then pick up the front loop of the single crochet below. And 1 strand under it. Work 1 slip stitch. The ch1 picket is now completed. Work another single crochet in the same spot below. Work across the entire round. Finish with a slip stitch. Leave a 30 cm tail and cut the yarn. One leaf is now completed. Crochet the remaining leaves in the same way. Next, crochet the daisy flowers. Start by a magic ring. And crochet in rounds counterclockwise. For the first 2 rounds, crochet 2 layers. Then combine them and crochet round 3. Let's do this together. Follow the chart to finish the first 2 rounds. The sample is ready with that. Place them with their wrong sides facing each other. Now, work on round 3. Insert the corresponding stitches and join the yarn. Chain 6. Then start in the second stitch from the hook. Work evenly for 1 single crochet, 3 half double crochets, and 1 single crochet. Slip stitch into the joining point below. Weave in the tail at the back. Slightly tighten. Insert and slip stitch into the corresponding stitches of the next group. The first group is completed. Let's make another group. First, chain 6. Then work 1 single crochet, 3 half double crochets, and 1 single crochet. Slip stitch into the same spot below. Slip stitch once more in the next stitch. The second group is completed. Repeat like this for the entire round. For the last group, work the second slip stitch into the joined point. Leave a 40 cm tail and fasten off. Consider the side with clearer texture of round 3 as the right side. The daisy flower is done. Next, let's work on the sunflower. Start by a magic ring. And crochet in rounds counterclockwise. For the starting chain and first 5 rounds, we'll work 2 layers, and combine them together while crocheting the last round. The new stitch here is E for treble crochet. I'll show you in detail. Here, the first 5 rounds of the sample are crocheted. Now, place the 2 layers with their wrong sides facing each other. Insert the corresponding stitches and join the yarn. Chain 2. 1 treble crochet in the same spot. Yarn over twice. Insert. Draw the yarn through. Yarn over and draw through the first 2 loops. Repeat this process 3 times. 1 treble crochet is completed. Now, 1 treble crochet in the next stitch. The tail can be tucked in between the 2 layers. Work 1 ch1 picket. One treble crochet. In the next stitch, 1 treble crochet. Two chains. And a slip stitch. Slightly tighten. Slip stitch into the next stitch. The first group is completed. Repeat the group for the rest. All across the entire round. When you have a few stitches left before the end, stuff the flower with a few fillings. To make the center part slightly raised, but not too much. Continue crocheting. Leave a 40 cm tail and cut the yarn. The sunflower is now done. Finally, we put up everything. You can arrange them according to the finished project. The shorter stem goes in the center front. Secure the top of it between the feet. The longer stem is attached to the flanks of the feet. Leave about 2 cm free and moving at the bottom without securing it. You may adjust its top according to the position of sunflower. Place the sunflower roughly between arm and foot. Attach 2 leaves symmetrically on flanks of the long stems. The other 3 leaves are sewn between the feet and underneath the daisy flowers. Cover the top of the short stem with one of the leaves. Feel free to arrange them as you wish. Now I'll sew the stems and leaves onto this sample. The facial features are not correct. Start by the shorter stem in the middle. Make the braid-like texture faces upwards. Tie and weave in the ends neatly on the wrong side. For the longer stem, make sure the braid-like texture faces upwards as well. Leave a bit stem at the bottom. Sew close to the edge of foot. For the sample, the position of the top is random. You need to arrange it according to the flowers. The tails should also be woven in on the wrong side. Secure the other side symmetrically. Next, sew on the leaves. For the sample, the placement of the leaves is random. The end with tail can be placed underneath the flower stem. This makes it look neater. The tip of the leaf does not need to be secured. The direction of the leaves can be arranged according to your preference. For daisy flowers, leave the tips of the petals unsewn. Let them curl naturally. Do not show obvious sewing traces on the right side. For the sunflowers, sew on half the wrong side of the them. The petals should also curl up, with the right side faces forward. Note that it should be placed over the longer stem. There are no specific requirements for the sewing method. Just sew it securely and nicely. Go ahead and finish it. That concludes the decorations. Finally, let's work on the strap. First, crochet the Romanian cord. Then put on the beads. Lastly, sew it onto round one of the arm. For the Romanian cord, you need to leave a 30 cm tail at both the beginning and the ending for sewing. Check the chart for the exact length of Romanian cord. You can also adjust it according to your needs. Let's make it together. How to crochet a Romanian cord. Chain 2 to start. Insert the back loop of the first chain. Yarn over. Pull the yarn through. Yarn over again. Draw the yarn through both loops. Keep the hook still. Turn the cord clockwise. Then, pick up 2 strands like this. Yarn over. Draw through. Yarn over again. Draw through the loops on your hook. Again, turn the workpiece clockwise. Pick up these 2 strands. Yarn over. Work a single crochet. Go on, turn the workpiece clockwise and pick up the 2 strands and crochet 1 single crochet. Repeat this process consistently. Turn the workpiece clockwise. Pick up the 2 vertical strands on the upper left. Crochet until you reach the desired length. Secure with 1 chain. Leave a tail, and fasten off. If sewing is needed, leave a longer tail. This is how you crochet the Romanian cord. After that, proceed with assembly. Here I'll be working on the sample. Thread the tail onto the sewing needle. Pass it through a bare bead. We have different beads for different style. Refer to your actual project. Bead for the sample is random. Go through a clarity bead. And sew onto round 1 of the arm. Sew a few times to secure. Then go back through the bead. Sew a few stitches on the Romanian cord. Try to make the tip look neat. Then tie, and weave in the ends neatly. One end of the strap is now secured. Do the same for the other side, thread the bead and secure. Do not twist the cord. Go ahead and finish it. That completes the strap. Up to this point, the entire bag has been fully covered. If you have any questions during the process, don't hesitate to reach out to our customer service. Susan's family, supporting your handwork experience, sharing the joy of life. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.